want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. Here, Frazier B. Baker was the first black postmaster in Lake City, South Carolina. In 1898, he was lynched after refusing to resign. Fast forward to this year, Congressman Jim Clyburn introduced the bill to rename the office in honor of Baker. Now, the state's entire congressional delegation supported it, and Donald Trump signed it into law last month. And Greg, these things happen all the time, where a post office is named after someone. But for folks who don't know, it's a very interesting history here.
Brother, when you said you were going to cover this story, I was elated. This was perhaps the biggest story in Black America at the time that it happened. This happened a couple of months after the Maine, USS Maine, had been destroyed, which kind of triggered the Cuban-Spanish-American War. And at the time, Ida B. Wells led out in this. She sent 2 letters to the Department of Justice. She led a delegation to the White House, met with President McKinley, and then stayed for a month after to lobby, among others, the last congressman of African descent in the United States Congress, and a man you talk about all the time, George White. George White tried to get legislation passed to pay for Baker's family, who had to leave that town in South Carolina because in Lake City, South Carolina, what happened was this man, who had been a farmer, was in the Colored Farmers Alliance, had been appointed to postmaster in that little city. And white folks were angry. They sent letters to the United States Postal Service saying, this man isn't delivering our mail. This is after they burnt down the post office. After they burnt the post office down, he moved the post office to his house. At that point, they set a fire. When he's trying to get out with his family, they kill him in the doorway, shoot a hole through his head, shoot his wife through the arm. She drops her infant child, who is dead before she hits the ground. They killed the baby, shot her, shot 2 of her daughters, shot her son. They find the burned bodies of Baker and his young daughter in the ashes, and the federal government, this is the first lynching, the first anti-black violence that is prosecuted by the Department of Justice after Reconstruction. They can't get a conviction. Eventually, she moves to Boston. The rest of her children either die of disease in Boston or has an accident. She comes back, she dies in 1947, but Ida Wells fought this all the way. In fact, finally, she said, in the black community, remember Frazier Baker needs to be our motto while y'all screaming about remember the Maine. So this right here, this is major, brother, that they would even name this for this brother, because he gave his life just trying to be an American.
And being American in service, right?
In service.
I mean, they burned down the post office because they were upset they had a black postmaster.
That's right.
He takes and moves it to his house.
To his house.
To do his duty,
right? His duty.
And it also reminds me, like, it's almost the flip side of the Confederate statue issue, where you have somebody who was almost forgotten to the midst of history, who should actually have been honored for what he did and for the personal sacrifice that he made in service to his country. And I mean, that's just remarkable.
This, of course, the kind of history Steve King didn't learn about.
Well, you know, I was just thinking that, and I have to say, it's the kind of history that I feel like, as a white person, I can say most of us don't learn about. Of course, you know, I grew up in Massachusetts. I went to a public school. We're taught about slavery, et cetera. But this story, I'd never heard this before. And it's amazing to me that I've never heard this before. It's an incredible story, and I'm glad he's being honored.
Oh, no, quite. You know, and it's interesting. You say you grew up in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Lavinia Baker, his wife, as I said, it was a white woman who said, if the government's not going to pay, please come to Boston. She moved her whole family to Boston, Massachusetts. So she, at least in Massachusetts public schools, the only thing I'd say is that black women like Ida B. Wells aren't the only ones who kept this story going. Shout out to Dr. Trachita Chestnut, who is the National Archives. She wrote a great article on this. Anybody want to read it, you know, I'm sure, you know, they can go through YouTube or you post the link. These sisters have kept this story alive.
Support Roland Martin Unfiltered. Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.